Welcome to Kaleidoscope S4IG. Let's talk. The UN published that in 2019, only 34.5% of working age women were either employed or seeking work, in stark contrast to the 73% of working age men in the same situation. Studies have shown that Sri Lanka could add 14%, that is 20 billion US dollars to its annual GDP by 2025 by increasing the female labor force participation, adding women to high productivity sectors. With me today is sustainability strategist Eranthi Premaratne. Eranthi, welcome and good to have you on S4IG Let's Talk on Kaleidoscope. This debate about women in the workforce, or the lack of women in the workforce, or the limited number of women in the workforce has been going on for a long time. Give me a rationale as to why there are less women at work in the formal sector. Why is there such a disparity?
I think the formal sector is the key term here, and I would put it down to three factors mainly. One is the culture. Men actually don't have the privilege or the luxury of, sort of thinking, okay, I'm going to quit, figure something out to do, right? Whereas the women have that luxury. So at some point in their career, some women decide to drop off and, find something else to do out of the formal sector. The second one is organization. So from an organization perspective, it depends on what the organization has to offer the woman, in terms of compensation and benefits, in terms of career progression, culture, recognition, all of that, right? And the third one is personal, I would say. Personal in terms of, at a point in their career, who takes care of the children, what are their choices, who takes care of the elderly, so all of that. And at that point, the women, especially in the urban middle class, they tend to drop off.
So also in this instance, what happens to the fundamentals of equality, where women should get equal pay, equal career opportunities, equal recognition? How does that work?
Legally, I would say, Sri Lanka allows for it, for all of these equalities. However, in the private sector, it's still a boys' club, very much a boys' club, right? But also what happens is that then the men tend to sort of, promote the men. They're comfortable more with them. It's somebody's, friend or son, or, went to the same school. So with all of that, what happens is that the men are recognized, they get connected more, they have those networks. So it's, the women have to work extra hard to get to that, really get into that network.
Now, like you mentioned, there are some very unfounded theories about employing women. Maternity leave, for instance, which increases expenditure, transport after hours, which add to the expenditure, or the ensuring the safety of women in the workplace, family issues hindering productivity. What would you say to employers who actually have this rationale and don't look at the statistics and the contribution women would make to their bottom line?
Traditionally, what has been sort of, taking place, or the thought process has been, okay, if it's a woman, they need to be protected, they have to be given special treatment, they need to be looked after, transport. But what about the men? So it's not about men and women, it's about the individual. So it's about screening and getting the right person for the job, number one. Number two, it's also about treating all your employees in a particular manner, not to look after the women and then make the men treat the men lesser.
So how do you plug the holes in general when it comes to attracting more women into the workplace, and more importantly, making sure they are retained in that workplace?
So I would say the most problem that I see is actually retention as opposed to attracting, because many women join the workforce, the formal sector. But what also happens is that for a number of reasons they leave, and some of these reasons include things like flexibility, the ability to balance their families and pursue their passions. So especially after post COVID, I think flexible working is a must. Having the right policies and procedures in place to make sure that there's no bias in the workplace, that individuals are treated as individuals, not as men and women, and generalize. So that's important. Then also taking care of the workplace in terms of eliminating harassment, bullying, all of that. So all of those things are important to create a culture that will retain keep the interest of the woman and keep her in the work.
So here's hoping that we will see more women in the formal workplace, and also that we are able to keep them and see a tangible feel of their productivity. A big thank you to the partners on our show who are truly one of a kind. Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB and the Morning Newspaper. Thank you. And if you like Kaleidoscope and don't want to miss out on our weekly show, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.